Everyone thought I had lost. Then at the auction I bought back the same building. It was 5 in the morning when I opened my eyes. Outside, I could hear the first bus stopping near the bus stand, and the heavy footsteps from the apartment upstairs echoed through the ceiling like they always did. I checked my phone. The alarm still had 7 minutes left, but I got up anyway. While making coffee in the kitchen, I looked out the window. Across the street, the laundromat's neon sign was still glowing. Night shift workers often washed their clothes there. The road was wet. Maybe it had rained overnight. "Mom, are we late?" I turned and looked at my daughter, Ava. Her hair was messy and her eyes were barely open. "Not yet," I said with a small smile. "But we will be if you don't move." She laughed. That was our life. Waking up early, worrying about daycare, running between 2 jobs and sitting with a calculator at the end of every month trying to make the bills work. Nothing glamorous about it, but we were getting by. Or at least I thought we were. That day started like every other day. I dropped Ava at daycare and headed to my morning shift at the downtown diner. After the lunch rush ended, I was sitting in the break room when my landlord called. "Miss Carter," he said in a formal tone, "I wanted to let you know the property's been sold." I frowned. "Sold? New owners are taking over the building. Most tenants will need to vacate within 60 days. The coffee cup in my hand suddenly felt too hot. "Wait, what?" "Information packets will be delivered tomorrow." Then the call ended. I sat there silently for a long time. Only one thing kept repeating in my head. 60 days. Where was I supposed to go in 60 days? With a broken car? 2 jobs? Rent in the city was already impossible. That night, after Ava fell asleep, I spread the bills across the kitchen table. The calculator kept giving me the same answer I didn't want to hear. Impossible. Then the next week I found out the real story. The new owners planned to empty the entire block and replace it with luxury condos. The same old brick building where working families had lived for years, where Ms. Delgado waved at people from her window every evening, where the drivers on bus route 14 knew everyone by name. It was all about to disappear. One night, while sitting in the laundromat, I quietly asked myself, "Tao what?" A woman sitting across from me looked up. I only knew her by face. Her name was Denise and she worked night shifts at the hospital. "You gonna be okay?" she asked. I thought for a few seconds. "I have to be." She nodded slowly. Yeah, you do." At first I was only trying to survive. But little by little I started noticing things. The sale wasn't as simple as it looked. A lot of tenants never received proper notices. Some of the paperwork looked questionable. And most importantly, the building owner was drowning in debt, which meant the property could end up going to auction. That was the first night I felt more than fear. I felt possibility. I didn't know how, but suddenly it felt like the story wasn't over yet. I started taking overtime shifts. Diner in the morning, warehouse packing shifts at night. Sometimes I only slept 3 hours. My car broke down twice on the road. One time, Ava and I had to walk through the rain to the bus stop. But quietly I kept saving money. People thought I was preparing to move. Actually, I was planning something else. One day Miss Delgado stopped me in the hallway. "You look tired," she said. "I am." Then she handed me a folded piece of paper. "My nephew works at the county records office. He said this might help." It was information about the auction process. I looked at her in surprise. "Why are you helping me?" She smiled softly. "Because people like us don't usually get someone fighting for us." That night, for the first time, I wrote out the entire plan. I would use my savings. Cover the rest with a loan. The risk was huge. Maybe even foolish. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was deciding. On the day of the auction, I wore a borrowed blazer and walked into the county building. My hands were cold. Most of the room was filled with investors. Expensive watches, confident smiles, casual conversations. I didn't belong there. At least that's what I used to think. The bidding started. The numbers kept climbing. One investor laughed and told his friend, "These old places aren't worth the trouble." Something inside me hardened. That place wasn't just bricks. It was home. It was people's lives. I stayed quiet. And then at the last moment I placed my bid. The room went silent for a few seconds. One man looked at me like he couldn't believe it. The bidding went higher. I said another number. My heart was pounding so hard that my own voice sounded distant to me. Then suddenly, "Sold." Just one word. And everything changed. I stood in the parking lot afterward for a long time. The air was cold. My hands were shaking. I had won. Well, not completely. I still had loans, repairs, responsibilities. But for the first time in my life, I felt like I wasn't just waiting for life to happen to me anymore. I was sitting behind the steering wheel when Denise texted me. "You did it." I replied, "Yeah." A few moments later, another message came. "Knew you would." 6 months later, the building still wasn't perfect. We repainted the walls, replaced broken lights, and kept the rent as affordable as possible. Ms. Delgado still waved from her window every evening. Bus Route 14 still stopped outside. Me. I still wake up early. Bills still exist. Some nights are still hard. But the difference is, I'm not living in fear all the time anymore. People thought I had lost because I stayed quiet, because I looked tired, because I kept bending for everyone else. What they didn't know was that sometimes people gather their strength in silence. I didn't win everything, but I won myself back.